Oh God. What's good? I'm Robbie.
I'm Quentin.
Hello, my name is Christian, and we're here to talk to you about Mr. Edison, or Thomas Edison to be exact.
Thomas Alva Edison was born February 11, 1847 in Milan, Ohio. He was one of 7 children of Samuel Odin Jr., a loyalist refugee, and Nancy Matthew Elliott. Edison was not very good in school. His mind often wandered. His teacher, Reverend Engel, overheard calling him a addled, which is a synonym of confused. This is when he left school and was homeschooled by his mother. Edison recalled, "My mother was the making of me. She was so true, so sure of me, and I felt I had something to live for, someone I must not disappoint." Much of his education came from reading R.J. Parker's School of Natural Philosophy and the Cooper Union for the Advancement of Science and Art. Edison was hearing impaired because of the outbreak of scarlet fever. Edison's family moved to Port Huron, Michigan after expansion of the railroad, when led to a decline in business in the line in 1857. His new life was bittersweet. Edison sold candy on trains running from Port Huron to Detroit to supplement his income. After some time, Edison obtained the right to sell newspapers on the road, and with the aid of some purists, he set in type and printed the Grand Trunk Herald, his own paper. This was the first of a long streak of entrepreneurial ventures.
Thomas Edison was one of the greatest inventors of his time, but he didn't start off as an inventor. As my partner said, he worked on the train selling newspapers, but we didn't know he didn't tell you that he had access to the train's baggage card to conduct chemical experiments in a small laboratory he set up. He accidentally started a small chemical fire in the baggage car during one of his experiments, and was kicked off the train. Young Thomas was forced to sell newspapers at railroad stations along the route. As he was working along the railroad, he saved a 3-year-old kid from being run over by a train. The grateful father of the child rewarded Thomas by teaching him to use the telegraph. Thomas became employed to work as a telemarketer. After Edison traveled throughout the next 5 years to the Midwest as a telegrapher. On his spare time, Edison would read extensively, study, and experience with telegraphs, technology, and became familiar with electrical science.
Along the journey, Edison made very unique inventions, and I shall go over the successful and the unsuccessful ones of each invention. We'll start off with the successful ones. Everyone knows that he was the inventor of making the light bulb. However, some people get confused that he made electricity. He did not. He made the light bulb so that it would last for a couple of hours, maybe more. And during this time, he was also able to make a perfectly flowing way of electricity to make it more sustainable, more usable, and more compatible, I guess you could say. The next one was the phonograph, which was like a record player, recorded sound. It's kind of like a radio player in a way. However, instead of it being a very small CD, something like the size of this, it's more of like this. It's pretty big. The next of the successful ones, which we know very well today, which is film. It recorded sound, it recorded light, it recorded picture. However, the only downside to our society would see it is that it was in black and white. Though back then it was such a great movement, it astounded everyone. Now for the unsuccessful ones. One that I would think is very confusing and everyone else would think confusing too is the fact to communicate with the dead. I'm not entirely sure about that one either. I do not know what he was thinking. He thought it'd be a great idea. Who knows? The next one is the talking doll, which this one we kind of know of today as automatic dolls, which have their own vocal cords in them. However, back then, yes, very, it gets worse. However, back then, since it was not really perfected, the audio box inside it's not really an audio box, it's a phonograph actually. There was a phonograph inside the talking doll, and the only issue with the phonograph being inside the talking doll is that it's too fragile for kids to get their hands onto, and the wax that's inside the phonograph would actually wear out after a couple of plays, so afterwards it would make like a horrible screeching noise. Hurts the ears, you know. The next unsuccessful one is more of like a horrible plan that didn't really go into consideration. It was concrete houses. Now, I can understand to some degree why this would actually be a good idea, but it made the company go bankrupt, and it just stripped them of their money, and they couldn't do anything else. It was a very, very poor idea. The difference is, even though that some of them were made, is the price of a normal house would be maybe in the thousands, maybe more. Multiply that by 100. You would get something similar to that as their price. It's much more expensive. And that's all we have to tell you about Thomas Edison. I hope you became brighter during this experience. Sorry for the pun. Have a nice day.
My God.